It's art time again. I'm so excited. Oh, did you hear that? There it is again. It's the sound of spring. Yay, spring is here. So as we're looking at spring being here, I'm just thinking about how amazing spring is and how those birds are chirping. I love hearing the birds chirp. It's the first thing in the spring that I seem to notice is that sound change. In the mornings, you hear those beautiful birds chirping. You know, when the birds are chirping like that, it makes me think of the Bible verse Matthew 6:26. Look at the birds of the air, for they neither sow nor reap nor gather into barns, yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Are you not of more value than they? I don't know about you, but sometimes I have trouble with worry. I think we all do. We all worry about different things, whether it's our schoolwork or if our mom and dad's going to be okay while they're at work that day or whatever. There's a lot of things that we can worry about. But God tells us in the Bible, do not worry. You know, look at the birds of the air. They worry. They don't sow their food, which means they don't plant their food. They don't go out and harvest their food. But they are not worried about if they will have food or not. And you too should not be worried. And so that's just a message that I really need right now is do not worry. And thinking about this, I was like, we have got to paint us some non-worrying birds to remind us of this. And one of the artists that popped into mind when I'm thinking about fun, happy little birds is James Rizzi. He painted such fun, happy paintings. He is an American artist from Brooklyn. And he's well known for his fun, I would say whimsical style of artwork, almost like he did it when he was more of a child. It has a childlike feel to it. And so I thought today it would be a great day to paint a James Rizzi bird and think of do not worry. So let's get started. So for today's art project, you'll need some watercolor paint, water, paintbrushes, paper towel and paint paper, and a black crayon and a pencil. If you do not have watercolor paint, watch later in the video how I describe some common household things that you could use for your watercolor paint. We're going to start by drawing a circle without a bottom on it, or you think of it as like the top of an ice cream cone, and then we bring down like an actual ice cream cone underneath. What it is going to be, like I said in the beginning, is a bird. So we just drew the head and the beak, and now we're starting its little body. These are really simple birds that James Rizzi used to draw, and so it should be a nice simple project for you. And I go out for the tail. And then I'm going to draw the legs underneath. Now, the legs, you can bring them straight down, but he also would bring the bird legs. Sometimes he would cross them. Sometimes he would bring them straight out from each other. I'm going to bring mine crossed, so that I just think that looks cool. The bird standing on one foot with its legs crossed. And then two big eyes. We will finish our bird up by adding a little sprig of hair on top and a wavy line for the wing. Now, after we finish that, we will grab our black crayon and go over the pencil lines. But I did want to say that you do not have to have your bird looking exactly like the first one. See, I drew a couple birds here that you could have yours looking like. And the next thing that we'll do after we get done with our black crayon is paint. So I said I would describe what to do if you do not have watercolor paint. Right now I am going to use gel food coloring instead of watercolor paint. I just put a little bit in the bottom of a bowl, and when I mean a little bit, it's really a little bit. I'm going to add some water to that little bit of gel food coloring. I use an eyedropper to do it, but you could also use a tablespoon. I do about 6 dropperfuls, so I would guess it'd probably be about 2 tablespoons of water to that small amount of food coloring. If you do not have the gel food coloring, that is okay. You can use the liquid drop food coloring. I've used that with just as much success. Just don't use as much water because the gel food coloring is more concentrated. So now we have watercolor paint essentially. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint that entire little bird, that one solid color that I just mixed up. You paint everything on the bird except for the eye. Leave the eye white. Maybe you're wondering what to do if you do not have any gel food coloring or liquid food coloring or watercolor paint. Another option is to use a washable marker, like a Crayola marker. You remove the end and then you take out the inside of the marker that has the ink in it and you place it into a bowl. Then you pour boiling water on top, about 1/4 cup of boiling water on top, and let it sit for about an hour, and then you'll have watercolor paint. This type is a little bit more washable than the food coloring option because it comes from a washable marker. It's still not as washable as watercolor paint though. Then you can just start painting with it. And now I'm painting another little bird. Again, painting everything on the bird other than the eyes, leaving the eyes white. And then in just a little bit, I will pour the pink and the purple food coloring together. Well, I have pink from the marker and purple from the food coloring, and I'll make a new color just so that I have one more color to choose from for my background. So you can do that. You can make a couple colors from food coloring, you can make some colors from markers, you could pour some together to mix them. So this is an alternative if you do not have paint, but you will need adult help to make these paints. So please do not attempt to make the paints without adult help. If you are lucky enough to have watercolor paint at your house, then you can just paint these birds with watercolor paint. And if you do not have watercolor paint and you don't have food coloring, you don't have old markers that you could use, then what you can do is just color them with regular markers, or you can use crayons, whatever you have available to you to create your birds in bright, colorful, fun colors. Of course, if you have watercolor paints at home, please feel free to use those. You do not need to create paints out of food coloring or markers. Those are just options for people who might not have paints at home. I hope you had fun creating this James Rizzi bird with me, and I hope you can hang it somewhere and have happy spring thoughts. Thanks for creating with me.